Completely inappropriate, but it's always weird that your dog's name's Charlie because my penis name's Charlie, and so it's just
Wait,
really weird.
when did you name your penis Charlie?
I didn't name my penis Charlie. An ex-boyfriend named my penis Charlie, and the name just kind of made sense.
The name made sense. An ex-boyfriend named my penis Charlie, and the name stuck. I have so many questions. But I love the mystery. I don't want to know.
Yep, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
That is So I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Here's the thing. What's better than this isn't the reason, but again, it's kind of taken on a life of its own, and so good morning, Charlie.
It's taken on a life of its own. Wow. You know what? At least yours has a name. I don't know that mine has a name. I think I joked around with names in the past, but I don't think I was ever really serious about any of them.
Again, like it's of course it's like not really serious. It doesn't have like a state ID or anything. But
no, but is it like bad luck to not name yours? Like
possibly, I don't know. I've had nothing but good luck with it. So
yeah, I feel like I should name. Well, like so you're saying that the name has to be given. Like it's not a name that
it doesn't have to be named. There are people who call like you remember that episode of Friends where he's like little general. He's like, I thought it was like little lieutenant. He's like, well, I had to give it a raise after I don't know, some girl.
That is a great joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. All right, well, I guess I'll think of a name for it. Maybe.
I'll think about it.
Hey guys, if you're listening to Bruh Meets World and you have some recommendations for what I should name my penis, please write us in at bruhmeetsworld@gmail.com.
You will never hear the words "Good morning, Charlie" the same again.
Yeah, because I say "Good morning, Charlie" every day, but apparently you do too in a completely different way.
When the spawn meets world, when the spawn meets world.
What up, bros?
What up, bros?
And welcome to Bruh Meets World.
What is Bruh Meets World?
Your Boy Meets World fan cast. Welcome to episode 33. I'm Ceej.
Tony Curtis in the place to be.
Tony Kurt.
Ayo.
So, where you at? What's going on?
Well, I just saw this episode, and I'm actually kind of a fan of it. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did, but I'm digging this one.
So this episode kind of hit on all the things that, like, I was... Like, it was relevant in several ways that I didn't think it would be. Mostly because not only was it, like, concurring all the things outside of watching this episode that I happened to be interested in, but it also has Danielle Harris, which I happen to be. Like, I was watching Charmed, like, the first season of Charmed, and she's in it. And then literally when I saw her, I was like, yo, what happened to Danielle Harris? Like, what's going on here? It was just like such a random...
Danielle Harris was in a bunch of stuff.
Oh my God, I'm excited to talk about it.
And she's so damn likable and charming in this episode. Like, as soon as the episode ends, I'm just like, well, I'm really bummed we don't see her again.
Yeah, I do want to get into that. So, do you want to just get into it?
Sure, yeah, let's tell me about it.
All right.
Tell me about it.
I don't know why, but I felt like singing along that time.
No, duet. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. We need to make sure we harmonize next time.
We'll get some harmonies in there.
A little pitch whistle. Season 2, episode 10, Sister Teresa. When Amy comes home after a long day of work and asks Corey for some assistance, Corey puts his own needs first, prompting Amy to ask Corey to experiment with thinking of others and showing basic human decency. Corey, always down for a challenge, tries to spend one day showing bare minimum manners and looking for praise for doing so. He eventually is nice to a new girl, Teresa, who takes his kindness as a sign that Corey is different. Teresa, aka TK, her interest in Corey goes from 0 to 60 as she starts to shower him with gifts and trying to be around him all the time. Corey's friends and family think TK is being too aggressive, and so Corey tries to let her down easily. TK feels rejected, and before Corey can suppress his guilt, he learns that K in TK is for Kiner and that Teresa is Harley Kiner's little sister.
So, can we jump right into the roll call?
Yeah,
Because I want
so
to talk about Danielle Harris a
yeah, I
little
want to
bit.
say roll call. In our roll call, we have Teresa, aka TK, played by Danielle Harris, which we talked about in the beginning, of fame. That I mean, one of my favorite movies. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Halloween.
See, that's where I know her from.
Yeah,
She is forever Michael Myers' niece.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I grew up in a family where like I had a lot of older cousins. We watched a lot of horror movies all the time. So those Halloween movies, especially being kids and that one being about a kid, like
Yeah.
I watched that all the time. I love that.
As I mentioned earlier, she was in Charmed, and also I did not know this. She was the voice actress of Debbie in Wild Thornberry.
Wild Thornberries, yeah, she was. She was
I
also
did not know that.
she had a stint on Roseanne for a while too when she was younger. She also had like a small part in the movie Free Willy.
Yeah, she's one of
She
those
was just
'90s faces where
she
it's
was
like,
one of those '90s kids, yeah. And you know what? It's so interesting because I feel like that whole batch of just like random '90s stars that we only saw on like teen sitcoms. I felt like if they were alive now with what social media is, they may have been able to build a brand for themselves outside of the limitations of the '90s. You know what I mean?
I
Like
do.
she's awesome,
I
and
agree. I mean, because
it,
honestly, I'm thinking about it. She's kind of like in the same. Not only does she kind of look like her, but she's in the same vein as Christina Ricci to me. You know what I mean?
okay,
There's
yeah,
like a,
sure.
they were in just in '90s things. You
And
just
I wonder too if is it just a thing of just like you know what you have you know, her and Jennifer Love Hewitt, and you have Danielle Harris, and they're all up for the same part. Like, is it just that Jennifer Love Hewitt got the role, and that's why she took off? Like, what is it that kept Danielle Harris from reaching that point? Because everything I've seen of her in this episode leads me to believe that she is star-making material.
Yeah, I mean, again, when I watched her in Charmed, it was something where, don't get me wrong, it's Charmed, it was overacted, but it is a thing where you remember her. And with the exposure that she had, you do wonder, like, I'll even throw in Thora Birch. You know, it's just kind of like some people, like, these were all, if this was like a class or like what am I thinking of? The Mickey Mouse Club, like, class.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some just made it and some didn't, and you wonder why, because like you all did the same things and you were at the
And
same.
you all probably auditioned for the same parts too.
Exactly. So I guess some things just like America gravitated towards and you lucked out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just it really is a shame. Like, there's going to be a ton of times throughout the series that there's going to be a guest star that we really fall in love with, and just to see just her like shine like this in this role, that could have been really annoying. The character could have been extremely annoying, but she is so charming that she pulled it off.
Especially at the end, like the final scene,
Yeah,
there's
and it
something
was
about
actually
that that's
funny.
enduring. Yeah, it's I'd say here I like laughed at it. Also, what I'm learning with this series is there are lots of latent things in my mind that I forgot that I knew, but then like when I'm watching it, my mind will fill in the blanks. And what I mean by that
Like what?
is when Feeney sees TK plus CM, and he's like, "What do you think CM stands for?" My mind said corn muffin, and I was like, "Where did that come from?"
You
I was
guessed
like,
that?
"Yeah, my mind." But what I'm saying is, I didn't guess it. My mind had it stored in there for some reason. My mind knew that that was the punchline.
Like
Like
in the
that was the
back of your
yeah.
head, you saved that joke.
Exactly. I don't know why. My mind can't remember where my keys are. I don't have no idea where my wallet is. I almost left my debit card like 3 times this week in the machine, but it knew corn muffin. So, but in this vein, and I love that you brought it up. There are going to be a lot of little side conversations I have with this episode because it sets up scenes where I'm like, I want to know more, or like this is
Yeah.
like very, very relevant to like adult life, and as a kid, you just don't get it because when we enter the episode, you know what? Before we do that, first impressions. Where are you at? What were your first thoughts?
My first thought was that I love TK eventually. I was kind of on the fence about her, but I initially liked her so much. Like that first interaction she has with Corey, I thought was really cute. And I just, you know what I also liked, and I think it was partially just because we've been talking about the female characters on the show so much, is that this girl had spunk. She had she was dominant. She was the dominant one in the relationship, and I don't know that we've seen that done on Boy Meets World yet, where the female was more dominant. I guess with Eric and Desiree, but I don't know if that counts.
No, that wasn't like that was manipulative, not
Yeah,
really like
yeah. I mean, she definitely had the upper hand on the relationship, but just in a different way.
yeah.
So yeah, it was very interesting to see just a different kind of female character, and I really liked that a lot about this episode.
Well, what's funny to me that you bring that up is that I looked at this episode and I was like, I like this episode, but what if we had gotten TK's perspective on it? Or like we had taken her storyline a little bit more than we did Corey's. Or what if Topanga dated Harley? You know, it's like why can't we have, or like why can't Topanga be in this episode?
Topanga can't date Harley because he would be on a list where he couldn't live near schools. He is an adult. Topanga is a child. I don't know how many R. Kelly songs you've been listening to over the weekend, but that just doesn't fly, Ceej.
Okay, I'll give you that. But what I was saying is, why can't, as much as I love this episode, I was wishing for a female plot line. You know what I mean? Like, I kept asking myself, why can't Topanga be in here? To be fair, I've also been listening to the Bechdel test, our Bechdel cast podcast. And a lot of that is like whether or not female characters are even on screen together at the same time.
Sure, yeah.
Let alone do they have a conversation
that doesn't revolve around men.
Exactly. And this was just one, we'll get into it. But anyway, it's got to go back to the beginning, and we're not going to do it point by point. But I did want to bring up, can you imagine, again, Amy has
just my goodness. Her hands are full.
The bags are breaking. And
Corey's inside right there. He could easily open up the door. He is microwaving his goddamn socks.
He still tries to get in. The bag breaks, and he picks up just the celery and the peanut butter. Which, by the way, I love that snack. That is a snack I would eat all the time after school. It was very, very true to real life for me. But
celery without peanut butter is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I can't. No, maybe ranch, maybe, but nah, it's peanut butter all the way.
Peanut butter, exactly. I also just had like a huge spoonful of peanut butter, and when I went back home, my mom was like, "I almost went and bought you peanut butter just so you had like a jar." Yeah. What it made me think of the whole scene with Amy is: have you seen that meme where it's like, can you imagine working all day, coming home, and your child didn't take out the chicken? And
yeah,
like now that I'm older,
just little things like that. Just like I told you 4 times, I called you and you said you were doing it while you were on the phone.
Can you just imagine? Like again, now like it's one of those things where it's like, as an adult, the idea of coming home and knowing that you still have to cook to eat, and that you have kids to take care of, but then you come home and the one thing that you asked to be done. That would make all of this easier hasn't been done. Oh, it's just like, it makes me want to burn something just thinking about it.
Yeah. And it just, I mean, I felt like Corey has picked up Alan's worst habits. I feel like that's what we're supposed to see here. Like, the whole episode was about Corey being more polite, but it should have been about Alan setting a better example for his son.
Which is also funny because one of the other points that I pull out of this episode is the importance of a strong male figure. You know? Did you get that at all?
Yeah, I mean, definitely from Teresa talking about like her experience with her dad and just like Harley's relationship, or Harvey, should we say. Just the impact that he's had on her life. Like, you really see the importance of what it means to have a strong male role model. Even like if you zoom in on Corey and Alan's relationship, who the reason why Corey didn't help his mom is because he was following the example of his father.
Exactly. And which, by the way, looking at this and the whole beginning of the episode, I was like, the bar for straight men, and if we have to throw in white, which is not always, but if we throw in white, the bar for straight white men is so low.
Yeah, I'll say for straight men, because to be honest, I can't say that I wouldn't see this exact same bit on like the Hughleys or you know.
No. I said like it applies to all straight men, but if you add in white, it's just like plus some.
Sure. Yeah, it was just, to me, it was just really just a chance that Boy Meets World had to have Alan mature in a good way. That they just kind of dropped the ball on again. But again, I mean, whatever. They've kind of given up on Alan and Amy and Morgan, who we see for the first time. She looks like she's grown 3 years. Her voice dropped an octave. She had one line, and I was like, "Oh, you're not cute anymore," and she
I
walked
was like,
away.
her voice did change. Morgan's voice did change. I noticed that.
Yeah.
But no, like I want to go back to the low bar, and it's because this all happens because Amy's like, "Have you considered being a decent person?" And so not only does Corey go around being like, "Oh hey, I'm gonna be nice," and by the way, when someone's like, "Thank you for being nice," he's like, "Tell my mother." But also like he gets Teresa's attention because he wasn't a douchebag.
The most unrealistic thing for me in this whole episode was Corey going, "You know what? I'm going to be polite all day just to show mom I can." Like, what? No, that's something you're like, "Okay, mom," and then you just go on living your life. Like, that to me was the most unrealistic part of it.
Well, it is, but as I said, Corey's one of those people where even in the tell me about it, I was like, Corey loves like he'll get things every now and then that makes him consider people outside of himself. And he's like, what would that world look like? What would happen if I helped another person for no real reason? And for him, it's just like this cool experiment thing to try. And you're like, why is that unusual for you? Why is like holding the door open this big gesture in your mind?
Yeah. And the other thing was just that he was being nice in a way that was like, "Hey, give me appreciation for me being nice to you." That's
Exactly.
not being nice.
That's not being nice. But again, Teresa's like, oh, wow, you're really put together because you picked up the books that you made me drop.
You're a very polite fella. Thank you. And your smile, it's kind of engaging. Yeah, I use the toothpaste with swirls. Humorous, too. You got possibilities. Turn around, let me look at you. I don't usually go for Velcro heads, but on you, I don't know. It's working for me. You got a name? Corey. I'm Teresa. My friends call me TK.
You know what's really funny too? Like she's like, "Hey, let me get a look at you. Turn around." And like he turned around and she gets a glimpse of his ass. Her eyes get big and she's like, "You know what? I don't really date Velcro heads, but I'll make an exception for you," after checking out his ass.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: the ass is
This
really
brings up
where
a
it's at.
really big question I have about this episode, which is, what was TK's intention with Corey? Because it seemed to me that she was trying to ride his
You're an idiot, and I don't know why I still do this podcast with you.
Am I wrong though? Like, she is literally like, "Frankie, I'm gonna give you money to leave this car so we can get it on in the back
Oh
seat."
no, I mean that's heavily implied. Again, there's this scene where they bring up is she fresh, and all the guys are like, "Oh yeah," and then
No, yeah, that's what was so crazy about it, because Harley, I keep wanting to say Harvey. Harley's like, "Oh, is this true about TK? Is she fast like this guy says she is?" And all the guys are like, "Yeah," like they all got with her.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they were all like, "Oh, for sure."
Any of you guys know a girl named TK? Is she fast like he says she is? Oh, yes. You guys know the K in TK? Stands for my sister. Oh, no.
There, when you first see TK loves CM, to me it looked like TK loves cum, and
You know what? It does look like that.
It looks like TK loves cum, and I was like, "This is a terrible thing. I hate this."
I was just the entire time I could not figure out what it was she wanted from Corey, because she, within the day of meeting him, rearranges her homeroom to be the same homeroom as his.
Yep.
Asked the teacher if she could sit in his lap for the remainder of the class. She sends flowers. She sends a clown that if ever arrived at my door, I would literally burn it on sight because it's terrifying.
That clown is terrifying.
She sends sirloins, which I have to say, as an adult, extremely thoughtful.
Extremely. It's one of those things. He's like, "Yo, steak."
That's the one gift that I would be on board with. Like, if I had a kid and it was like, "Hey, clearly this girl's trying to buy your affection, but like, these steaks are really great, so maybe you should go out with her for a little bit longer.
She's like sirloin steak, yo. Especially, all right. So again, you were trying to feed a family of 5.
Yeah, exactly. This is
then,
more of an economic choice. This is Sean's mentality. We're in Sean's mind
exactly.
right
And then also, I love that even the delivery guy was like, "Yo, these steaks are A1. We're gonna." So also, like, one of the things that we were talking about with Teresa is, as I said, I was kind of missing this female element, and I wish Topanga was in this episode. Like as a matter of fact, when we see her the classroom scene, I'm like, who's this bitch in Topanga's seat?
I just am so confused as to like what is going on with Topanga, because like in one episode they'll have a Corey and Topanga moment, then the next episode he's with some rando, back to Topanga with some rando. What's happening here?
Yeah, and what I'm saying is, if there's another female character, usually, unless she's seen as like a foe, she's like Topanga's not in the episode, and that's what I'm saying. I'm just starting to notice. I'm like, why can't Topanga still be there?
There's
Especially at
only
this point in
room for
time.
one female, Ceej.
But
They
maybe
have a
this goes.
quota.
Maybe this goes back to the whole idea that we're seeing it through Corey's perspective. So when Corey gets any other female interest at this point in time, Topanga just ceased to exist.
Wow. Isn't that such a shitty thing about Corey then?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
don't get me
whenever
started
Topanga's
on like,
around, out of sight, out of mind.
exactly. It's one of those things where it's like, I would love it if like that's what Topanga, like the girl in front of Corey in this episode, is what Topanga actually looks like. But but to Corey, he's not thinking about her that way anymore. So it's just like, I don't know, random girl.
Yeah. What is that? That is really. You know what, though? I wonder if that's just, again, part of their overall scheme to space out the relationship. I just wish there would be like a, hey, we're going to do Topanga for a few episodes and then explain why she's not around for a few episodes.
Or like,
I mean,
even if it's the sense that like they do with Morgan or Eric, is like you can be there and not like really have a dominant role. There are plenty of
that's
times where
all Morgan's been.
exactly, it's like you still exist. We still acknowledge that you're here.
You know what? I think they do that later on in the show.
Yeah,
I think what happens is that from a budgetary reason, they can only pay so many actors at a time. So
yeah.
that's why you don't really see Topanga in a lot of the background yet. However, I think as we start seeing less of the other side characters and more of just the focus on the 4 kids, that they're always around in the background.
But I feel that, and it could be a pricing issue, but you're telling me that we needed Eric in this episode and we couldn't use Topanga in the classroom scene.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, especially because at one point in the beginning of the episode, Corey wants to decide, he's like, oh, I'm going to be polite to Eric. Watch this. He opens the door for the boys' room, the bathroom for Eric. Is the boys' room not Feeney's office?
I'm going to say, well, we know that that's an inconsistency in this show. That thing changes from the bathroom to Feeney's office every other episode.
The thing I wish is that, like, okay, if you're gonna do the bathroom office switch, at least try to make the hallway look like a different hallway. Put up different posters. Maybe have a water fountain in one and not the other. Like, move it around to just subtle things to make us feel like it's not the same thing. Maybe the bathroom is in front of Jonathan's office, but the principal's room is in front of a different classroom. Like, just something.
Yeah, they could definitely try. I mean, how hard would it be to literally make it up the stairs? One's up the stairs and one's downstairs. You know, it's like it's really not that hard, but you know, you get what you get with this show.
Sure.
And you know, sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's like you guys literally couldn't put it in a little more effort, like just a bit.
I have a question about Teresa's gifts. Are we to understand that these gifts are through her shady people connections with her brother and family members?
Yep.
Okay.
They're clearly, it's like, again, it's very stereotypical, and as Helene had said a while ago, pseudo-racist, where it's like they're Italian, so they have like mob connections or whatever. It's very, it's weird. It's also,
yeah, because it seems like that Teresa and her like Kiner gang,
Kiner
crew, they seem to have the same connections that Sean seems to have.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, I don't understand why the kind of crew doesn't attach more to Sean. They seem to have so much in common with him.
That's a very good point that I never thought of.
Like they're from like the same neighborhood. Like we later find out that like Frankie's trailer is like 3 trailers down from Sean's or something like that. Like they clearly have family with similar connections and similar past and history. Like it wouldn't make sense for them to more so try to recruit Sean. And maybe that's just because I know who Sean's going to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That just seemed like they would be a good fit.
But they also did a lot of that hinting. It's one of those things where when we watch this episode, we get more fleshed out little hints at who Sean is and his background, you know? So it's like, how did you get here? Oh, my house is on the other side of the fence. You know what I mean? It's just like things like that.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm very interested in this. So I also wanted to bring up, not only were we talking about the gifts and what has come, I thought it was really funny because we had just talked about love languages. And hers is clearly
I wrote that down too.
giving.
That her love language is clearly gift giving.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really funny to me because we had just spoken about it. That was it. That's all I wanted to say.
She said, "I like sending you things. You're my guy. It makes me feel ladylike."
Yeah,
I thought that was a really strange thing to say. Like, gift giving makes me feel ladylike because I don't necessarily know that I know of a stereotype in which gift giving is perceived to be a thing a lady does.
Yeah, but again, that brings up questions about her family dynamic and what she witnesses.
Okay, can we talk about that? Because on the date that she's on with Corey, she starts talking about how her dad left her at a baseball game forever.
Fucked up
on her birthday to go bang this redhead. And again, I stretched the phrase. The dad met the redhead at the game and then left the daughter forever, never to come back.
She said that was the last time I saw him,
which is a wild story. And then she's like, "Oh, I called my mom, but she was under the weather."
Yeah, what did that under the weather mean? Because
that under the weather meant that her mom was an addict.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
That's immediately what I thought. And I was like, wow, Boy Meets World. Like, this is TGIF implying that this, like, random character's mom is a drug addict or something. Like, or an alcoholic or something. Like, that was... okay.
Which leads to a backstory. I mean, all of this is true. And I was kind of trying to use this as a segue. This does two things. One, we get kind of our first baseball reference in a while.
Corey references baseball for the first time this season and talks about how much he loved going to games last year with his brother.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. And then we also get a human backstory to Harley.
Yes, and I wanted to talk about that too. Your thoughts about him as Harley the brother.
Yes, it's actually pretty amazing because as an older brother who also had to like help raise my little sister, it's interesting the responsibility he takes on that, and you kind of in a way can see why he is who he is. Like think about it for a second. You have someone who, assuming they share the same father, the same set of parents, you have someone whose father's a deadbeat, whose mother's an addict. Clearly, neither of them are bringing in consistent money. So the first thing he mentions is he spends so much time collecting lunch money and doing, he's
doing it for her.
Yeah, he's doing it for her. He's doing it for his family. He's literally supporting. That would even explain why he's still in school. You know what I mean? It's like it's
his main source of income.
Yeah, he didn't have time to focus on education. He's hustling. You know what I mean? And that puts a different light on it. And they even kind of lean into that because he seems to take family very seriously. Not only is he like immediately nicer to Corey once he sees that Teresa's interested, but when he hears what's going on with Teresa, he's disappointed in himself.
He's like, I try to do my best to raise him right. And I know that's like a joke that they were doing, but it wasn't really. Like, he's really taking it to heart because he feels solely responsible for the way she's turned out.
Exactly. And that's my whole thing. It's like, Corey's like, she's not a bad person, which I want to get into. And he goes, look, no, I know that. But he's like, I haven't spent enough time with her. And he understands that importance. And I think that is wildly interesting.
Yeah, a very interesting backstory to give Harley, and kind of like almost not really understanding like the magnitude of that backstory with him. I guess it feels like it was a real underhanded pass of a backstory, but actually had some huge weight when you start to dissect it.
Yeah.
Um, what I didn't, I guess, my only comment to what you just said is that Harley, there are better ways to make money off of high schoolers
Yeah.
than stealing their lunch money.
Yeah.
I can see why Boy Meets World didn't want to go down the drug path, but what you just described is a man who could probably make some really decent money selling weed or coke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Well,
isn't.
I mean, like, there's that, and then there's also the fact that I feel, as you said, they just kind of like hinted at it to give him some depth without really wanting to put any weight behind it. But it's something that if we were to make this show now, I feel they would really expand on that. You know, it's almost like a pseudo redemption story arc without.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just feel like too, it's this interesting thing because they have this heart to heart, and then Corey's like, "Hey, so are we cool?" And he's like, "No, we're not cool." Like,
Yeah.
like I love that Harley has this kind of almost allegiance to only the few people he does trust, which is his sister and Harley. I mean, and Frankie and Joey. And no matter what moments he has with any teachers or parents or kids, like he's gonna resort back to being him.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you said it didn't change their dynamic, but he has definitely reconsidered or recontextualized his position with his sister. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna think of that much differently of you, but I still see you as a good guy, but I'm still gonna rag on you. I'm still gonna do the things that I want to do with you. But thank you, almost in a way, for making me see the importance of a role I play with my sister.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was a really powerful moment that was acted all right
Yeah,
by Harley.
yeah.
Um, I don't know who this actor is who plays him. I should probably know that,
Oh my
but
God, you should really, because all right, his name is Danny McNulty, and the reason why I bring that up is because Danny McNulty recently tweeted how much he enjoyed playing this character,
really,
and he talked about how, yeah, he literally, like, this last week
he
understated.
said on August 4th, I really do miss the magic of being able to be a part of Girl Meets World. It meant the world to me to be able to come back again as Harley Kiner and get a chance to work with such a wonderfully talented tribe of individuals. And thank you, Disney Channel, for giving the show an opportunity to shine, even though its world was ended way before its prime time. Oh.
Yeah. And again, it's like I love, and even with that, like when they brought his character back in Girl Meets World, it's someone who still takes his responsibility very seriously. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know, it is this great backstory, or like story in the background of a character that you usually don't see a lot about.
Yeah, that was just a really interesting choices all around.
Yeah, and again, it to me it echoes what I said, where it's like we would have gotten more, we would have learned more about him had this show been made in 2018.
I did just do the math just because I was curious after looking up his Wikipedia. He was 22, 23 while filming this.
All right, so he
So
wasn't that old. You made
wasn't
it seem like
that
he was
much older.
37.
Yeah, to me he looks as old as Jonathan, but clearly he's just an older looking person. Like no different than anyone on that 90210 or anything.
Yeah, but then again, he is made to look like the greasers from Grease, and they were 30. Pretending.
Well, what I realized is that you're 100% right, because thought he was supposed to be like this Fonzie character, but to me I was like, no, he's reading way more Vinnie Barbarino,
Yeah.
John Travolta to me than he is Grease. So I mean, our Happy Days. So
Yeah.
that definitely a strong Travolta influence there.
Yeah, very much so. Before Sandy.
Before Sandy, yes, yeah, the douchery that took place before Sandy. Can we one? I don't know how important this is, but I wrote this down. I thought it was funny. Apparently, Sean broke a freezer so they wouldn't have fish kebabs for lunch.
Yeah,
and I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. and the morning announcements, which by the way was going to be my turned on by Turner moment. Because Mr. Turner.
Oh, when he found out that his bike was in trouble?
No. Honestly, it's not that scene. There's the scene where
he's just kind of going through what's going on in the morning.
Yeah, the morning, and the boys are talking, and he's just like, "Oh,
listen, I'm sorry. I was teaching while you were talking. My mistake.
No problem.
Guys, while you're here in my class, whatever personal stuff you got going on, check it at the door."
Hey, you Mr. Turner? Yeah, Janet above wants to see you down in the parking lot. Something about his truck running over your motorcycle.
My bike? Oh. Great poems.
When we're talking about Teresa and this conversation that Harley and Corey has, this was another moment where I was like, why are we not having this moment with Teresa? Why is Harley and Teresa not having this moment? And I know that it's because in reality, the show focuses on Corey, but I think that...
Well, I think that the other thing too is just that they're probably wanting to, like, this is kind of a backwards way of giving him a backstory. So like, they have to include him because he's the character that's going to stick around. Although I do agree that I don't like two men discussing like a woman's choices.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's the idea, like, especially for me, it's when Corey says she's not a bad person, and Frankie's like, or Harley's like, I know. And there's this discussion of her being fast, and it's like, why are you not talking to Teresa about this? Why are you not talking about Teresa about the fact that Harvey should be spending more time and the importance of the role? It's just, it feels ick to me.
Sure. Yeah, I just didn't care for that either. I didn't care for the way that Harley tried to control their relationship. I thought that was really unhealthy, the way he was like forcing Corey to go on a date that he clearly didn't want to go on. Like, obviously I understand like the feeble-mindedness of, no, this will make my sister happy, so you're going to do it. But
yeah,
I mean, obviously forcing someone to go on a date they don't want to go on is not going to be a great success. I just didn't really care for the control aspect that he was of Harley in their relationship.
Exactly. But all right, so speaking of Harley, so there are these things that we do where I'm unsure of what the message is supposed to be in this, because at one point in time, Corey says politeness kills. And it's even kind of sold that Corey's in this position because
his mom told him to be polite.
Exactly.
It's Amy's fault that he's in.
Yeah, which I love when she goes, "How are you pawning this off on me?" You know what I mean? He's like, he's like, it's kind of your fault that I'm even in this situation.
Again, it is, Amy. Yeah, you told me to be polite and nice to people, and this is what happens when I do that. I get a girl who's all over me, sending me steaks, and now I'm forced to go out with her. Mom.
Yeah. A few things that I want to bring up. One, we get a little bit more support of the Frankie being gay theory.
Well, they did insinuate that Corey would have a date with Frankie. I'm assuming they meant like a fight date. But then again, I don't know what a fight date is.
For me,
a fight date is something that Rihanna went on that we're still talking about.
That is terrible, and I will not allow you to do that. But no, it's kind of played as the same thing as like a prison rape joke, but it's like if you don't go on this date, your next date will be with Frankie.
Oh yeah, there is a little bit of a I do feel that a bit of prison rapiness going on with
but
that
at the same time, the fact that he chooses Frankie, and we've already had like I don't know, there's something there, and I was like,
Frankie may possibly be a homosexual himself,
and that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like a thing where, for me, I felt that Harley was saying, you either date my sister or I'll make sure, it's like, I know someone else who would like to date you, and I'll make sure that happens. You know what I mean? And you may not like that one as much.
No, you won't, because he's not bringing flowers. He said so.
Also, so when Corey thinks that he's, set up, he's like, how could it be any worse? And he's like, oh, Frankie's at the door. I only bring up that scene because Corey in that tie, they go, what does he look like? Or there's some scene where they talk about that.
Ventriloquist puppet.
No, my thought was he looked like he should be selling bean pies on like the side of the road. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. Bean
Does he
pies.
not look like very like Farrakhan in that outfit? Like if he told you,
I guess yeah. I didn't think of Corey Matthews in a Farrakhan setup, but yeah, that is.
He just has that look. That's what I like. If you again, it's of course not because Corey's white, but like if you saw a black man in that exact same suit, you would be
100%.
Like, that's what I'm saying. I saw it in my mind immediately. It was like this man's going to try to sell you a bean pie.
I have some questions about TK, and my question is that like, are we rooting for her or are we not rooting for her? Because she's super sweet, she's super charming, but she is admittedly moving way too fast. Again, changed her homeroom, sent gifts to his home address, several, to the point where the dad made friends with the delivery man, Tony, who later went into the kitchen and prepared steaks for the family.
Yeah, it's interesting because what I kept looking at when I was looking at their dynamic is, would this be different or would it be played for laughs if the roles were reversed?
That's like, what I had a hard time dealing with too, because at one point she's like, I'm going to go grab my books and then you're going to walk me home. And I was like, oh, I feel uncomfortable with the way she's kind of demanding him to do that. But I was like, if the roles were reversed, I would still feel uncomfortable by it, but I don't know that I would pause the same way.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Like, I think if there's two things going on here. One, the idea of her being so demanding and in a way controlling is in fact a red flag in any relationship. But at the same time, because she's a girl that's doing so, you kind of want to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's just being assertive and goes for what she wants, and it's coming off weird because of how we are programmed to receive this from a male character. Does that make sense?
I gotta say though, if I saw a man acting like this, I would still think he was kind of an asshole. Like that whole like ordering for a woman at a restaurant kind of thing, like that, just taking control. Like there's one thing between being like more dominant and more assertive, and then there's another thing to just be presumptuous and controlling, and that's kind of sort of the vibe I got from TK at points. There was other times where I'm like, wow, there's obviously a deeper person here, but she clearly has some issues she really needs to work out, because she attached herself to this kid so quickly.
Yeah, you know,
apparently he's not the first one.
Yeah,
so
I agree with you, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, which is that it's still unhealthy. It is, any kind of controlling behavior like this is bad, and no one should. And I think just seeing it come from a female character makes you pause. Does that like? Am I?
No. I mean, that's what I'm wondering though. Like, because I do think I would pause even if it was a guy. I just think it's toxic behavior for any relationship for someone to be controlling that way.
It is, and I don't disagree. I'm just saying that there's something about her being a girl that makes you at least consider it differently.
Well, again, I think that goes to the strength of Danielle Harris as well, because if it was like the girl from like the party that Corey wanted to go to, I wouldn't have cared at all.
Yeah.
Danielle Harris really, like, especially like, I felt like that car date scene was just really important for us to just find out that she's a person that's just not all eccentric. Because again, like Corey coming home and getting all those gifts right away, spray painting his name on the that was cuckoo crazy. If I talked to a girl 2 days ago and she spray painted our initials with a heart on lockers, Jesus, red flag, run.
Yeah, I agree. Which, by the way, this is completely not relevant, but why did Corey get detention for that?
He took it for her.
Yeah, no, I get it, but like the fact that even Feeney would give it to him, it's like it says TK loves CM, which first of all, you have no evidence on that it is Corey Matthews. You're telling me that Corey's the only CM in the entire school, and then second of all, it's like Corey is clearly the, I don't want to say victim, but he's the recipient of this token of love, not necessarily the other way around. So why would you give it to him?
100%. Also, are we to believe that a public vandalism only gets you detention?
Especially from Feeney of all them.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not even that it was like the small thing that they could cover up. Like, no, this was huge in public. And they're like, well, I guess you'll get detention. What?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Do you have anything else that you want to say?
No, I feel like we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I think we covered all of my notes.
Yeah.
What's your bra moment? Where you at?
Yeah, I guess my bruh moment was just the way that she was moving very, very quickly in the relationship. And I think that we do get a lot of that, you know, amongst all relationships of just like getting really excited or meeting someone. But in her particular situation, there was so much family issues that she was trying to use this relationship to cushion herself for or use as a crutch. And I just thought that was a real, and again, I don't know as far as like 2018 versus 2000, like 1994 or whatever. But that was just a moment that really I was just like, whoa, let me sit and think about that for a bit. And why does she need this relationship so strongly? And what does Corey mean to this girl who has no man that she can depend on, and all of a sudden she meets this trustworthy man that she's ready to give him everything. It's
Yeah.
not because she doesn't like him. She definitely likes him, probably more than the other guys, and that's why she's going balls to the wall with this.
Yeah.
Because she's so afraid of losing the one person who she thinks will be the replacement of her dad. Like, that is bruh.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Yeah, that's definitely a moment. And mine I just keep coming back to this moment when they're in the hallway and they talk about her sexuality, and her being fast and everything. It's just, for me, that bra moment for me was this situation of, not only is it not played very judgmental, like immediately they're like, she's not a bad person, which I liked that they threw that in there. But for me, that was a moment where I was like, if this was 2018, I would hope that we would be having this conversation with her. It's like, I would hope that her narrative would take the center place. Her and her brother talking about this would kind of take center stage. And that was where I was for me.
I will agree that there was never a moment where we just saw TK and Harley having like
that's what I'm
a
saying.
moment together. And it's like, why would we make Corey the central piece of their dynamic? Like, if you're gonna have Corey like bring Harley in to talk to her at the end or something like that, and have like, okay, you know what, Harley, I'm gonna make you and your sister are gonna make things right here.
Exactly.
Come talk to me. We're gonna find her. Like, have him kind of play like they used to do that with Hey Arnold all the time. Like, on Hey Arnold, he was always the one who was just like repairing other people's relationships. Corey can be that person.
Yeah.
But like, otherwise, what's going to change with their dynamic? Because that's the one that matters as far as these characters that we just met and found all this crazy backstory for.
As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, do Harley and Teresa even share screen time at all?
I think literally the only time they share a scene is when Harley comes to take Corey from the date. Like, that's the only time they see each other. The rest of it is Joey and Frankie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, that one scene is it. Outside of that, there's like, if we're supposed to believe this relationship is as important as it is, I just feel like there was a lost opportunity there.
And especially to also connect, like, we know the role that Harley plays with Teresa and like coming to pick her up and everything like that, but we never like take that moment to be like, wow, these are Harley's parents too that we're learning about. Like, there's never that connection. And then maybe we're supposed to, as an audience, just kind of come to that conclusion that like, oh well, this gives us a small piece of what this character went through, but it doesn't really. It's what this character who's related to this character went to. It'd be like finding out like, well, Sean's sister has a really bad relationship with Sean's dad. Okay, well, let's talk about Sean for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, something that's also related to Sean, and we don't have to get into it really, but I just want to bring it up because it will be important later. The idea of the Matthews as a rehabilitation center for others. Like this idea that the Matthews...
like when he brings Theresa to the dinner table at the end?
Exactly. Like they're like reforming other people.
And you know what's funny? It doesn't seem like the Matthews are purposely trying to do that. I just feel that that this is the anxiety that lower class people have around people of a higher class, that they feel like they need to be on their best behavior in order to be accepted.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring it up because as we've spoken about, this will become a strong storyline or thread with Sean's character. But this isn't the last time the Matthews family is seen as like this redemption center, you know?
Oh no, we're going to see a lot more of that.
So that was just one of the things that I noticed. Okay, grades. What grade are you giving this?
I'm going to give this episode a B+. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I didn't think I was. I don't think it's specifically like one that I would state to be my favorite or that it would be super memorable, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna give it a B minus, and I'm gonna give it a B minus because I really enjoyed this episode way more than I thought it would. But the lessons were kind of all over the place for me. Like again, it didn't really state whether or not the politeness thing was a positive or negative. It didn't
Yeah,
really.
you know what? You're right. You're right. There is some sloppiness here with the storytelling. I'm gonna
Exactly.
bring it down to a B- as well. Actually.
Okay. Nice to. Yeah. Do we need to go over the Feeney taught me? Do you have any strong lessons?
Yeah, I thought the Feeney taught me was gonna be being polite pays off, but you're right. There's no conclusion to that argument whatsoever.
Yeah.
So,
my note is the Feeney lesson is people are starving for human decency.
yeah, I mean, I guess the Feeney lesson maybe is supposed to be taken from like Teresa, but we don't even come to like anything with her. Like she doesn't come to like an aha moment where she's like, "You're right, Corey. I don't need to act like this," or "I don't like." There's no point she gets to. We just find out about her. There's no resolution to her.
Exactly.
I don't know that there is a Feeney lesson here, guys. If you know one, let us know.
All right. Homework. Do you have homework for this week?
Yes, my homework is that there is a very beautiful Ken Burns documentary about Vietnam on Netflix that I've just finished. It is very, very long, but as someone who didn't know jack shit about Vietnam, I feel like I know everything about Vietnam. I feel so personally attached to this, and it's so interesting. Like in school, you and I were kind of talking about this, how Vietnam isn't something that's really covered or discussed very well just because there's so much shame attached to it. But it was very interesting watching this. I felt like everything I knew about the 60s and 70s was like a puzzle, and there was all these pieces missing, and Vietnam just completely like pieced together this puzzle that was like, oh, that's why, that this is all making so much sense now, and this is why our country's this way. And I just learned a lot about our country, and it's
Do you know why we didn't even pull? I mean, I'm sure you do, but we didn't even pull out of the war when we were supposed to because they didn't want to give credit to they didn't want to give credit to one president.
No president wanted to be the president to lose a war. That's why the war went on for. Like it was just so many stupid stuff. So many people died for no reason. But what I really love about this documentary, probably more than anything else, is that it's not just Vietnam War from the American side. It's from the Vietnamese side. Like we're talking to vets that fought on the other side of the war, what their motivations were, what their lives were before and after the war. Super interesting stuff. So if you guys have Netflix, it's very, very long, but I tell you, you watch the first half of the first episode and you're going to be sucked into it.
Yeah, I love Ken Burns documentaries because they are a deep dive into
thorough. Spent 10 years on this one. 10 years making this one documentary.
They've always been. I had an ex who was obsessed with the Civil War, and we would watch his Civil War.
Yeah, I saw that's on there. I think I might try to watch.
Dude, again, I think what he does is not only does he tell you the truth, but he tells you the humanity of all of these stories.
And that's the thing, especially when I heard of war, it was always so many statistics and things like that. But when you actually like talk to people who are like, no, these are my memories of like being with these guys, and we were in this war not knowing if we were supposed to be there or not. We just were trying to survive and come home. Like it's just all very compelling stuff.
Which also makes the Forrest. I think Forrest Gump was my first exposure to Vietnam.
100%. All I knew about Vietnam was Forrest Gump before this.
Yeah, and I mean, but that's all I have to say about that, I guess.
All right. All right.
What's
your homework, bro?
What'd you say?
What's your homework?
My homework is actually a little bit of Danielle Harris. I'm gonna bring up "Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead." It's a great movie. It's one of those movies that I love because it just could not be made today Like, there's so many things that are very specific to the era.
Is that Elizabeth Shue? Or is that Christina Applegate?
It's Christina Applegate. I
It's
had to
Christina
look up.
Applegate.
Yeah, it's Christina Applegate.
I was confusing with Adventures of Babysitting. Yeah, you're right.
All right, cool. No. This is Christina Applegate. Right Away,
Yeah.
Rose. I love this movie. It is such a fun 80s movie to watch. She literally copies her resume out of a book. And I mean verbatim. Doesn't change anything but the name and gets a job. I was like, that just would not fly nowadays.
I just love how they're just showing how easy it was to lie on resumes. Like, before the internet, Jesus, there was no way that they could.
Yeah, exactly. People would just be like, I went here. And everyone would be like, all right, cool. Like, what are you going to do? Lie on your resume?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
It was like a nationwide honor system, and it's just ridiculous. So
The freedom of it.
Definitely check out that movie. Don't tell mom the babysitter's dead.
It's also super empowering from like a young female perspective of just like, you have this girl, I think she's still in high school maybe, and she like is able to be super successful and take care of her family and work a job. It's really a pro woman.
Yeah, it is. As Netflix likes to tell me, I like movies with a strong female lead.
Yeah.
And then also check out the Backstories cast. It's the podcast that is all about women in film and whether or not they interact with each other. I'm pretty sure everyone's heard about the Bechdel test. This is a podcast that goes through kind of a lot of our favorite movies from the past and just sees if they hold up. And as expected, a lot don't, but you're also surprised at the ones that do. There are lots of movies that are kind of written off as shallow or, whatever. And they do a really good job at showing women interacting. They did one that I looked at that was old Jumanji versus new Jumanji.
Ooh.
And, yeah, it was pretty good conversation. So check that out.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, anything else?
Yeah. Hashtag bring back Topanga.
Hashtag bring back Topanga for sure. All right, so that'll be our episode. Thank you for listening to Bruh Meets World. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. If you haven't, leave us a rating. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Email us at bruhmeetsworld@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys on Twitter and all of our other things. You can find me on Twitter at Extra Ceej. That's XTRACEEJ. TC.
You can find me at a braver me.
All right, you guys, remember to dream, try, and
do good, guys.
Also, send us your request for TC's penis names. All right.
Yeah, we need those. I have unnamed genitalia right now, guys. We can't let this stand.
Later, bruh.